Hello guys, it's that time of the year. A lot of people are now applying to be part of at least the fall semester so that they can come to Canada and study. And also those who applied during the spring and summer semester possibly and were refused will also be reapplying. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me at least to help them prepare to counter the refusal reasons that they got, especially those who reach out to me to be able to get the GCMS notes. And in this video, what I'll be doing is at least helping you with how you can counter some of the refusal reasons that you got in your refusal letter. And also, if you got your GCMS notes, what are some of the things that you can do to counter your refusal reasons so that you can improve your chances of being approved. Just to let you know, personally, I was refused twice, even though I felt I should have been approved on the first application. And I applied some of these reasons to be able to at least get my refusal overturned and got an approval to be able to come to Canada to study. Before we go any further, one thing that I always tell people is when you get your refusal notes, don't just reapply blindly. The first thing that you have to do is at least request for the GCMS notes, which I spoke about in my previous video. This basically helps you understand the real reasons why the visa officer was able to refuse your application. Truthfully, from my experience, there are a lot of reasons why these visa officers can use at least to refuse your visa application. There are three main reasons that from my experience I've seen to be able to get your visa approved for any country. There are three things that you need to satisfy. The visa officer needs to know that you have genuine reasons to go to that particular country. Secondly, he needs to know that you have enough funds on you to be able to take care of yourself and that you don't have to rely on the government in that country to at least survive. And thirdly, you need to have reasons to go back to your home country in case things don't go right, especially if you are applying for a temporary resident permit. So these are three things that they look out for. And within these three things, there are a lot of things that they can pick and choose to at least refuse your visa application. One thing that I always say is on your reapplication, instead of just submitting a standard SOP, make sure you attach a letter of explanation. The difference between SOP and letter of explanation is in the SOP, you are explaining to the visa officer your study plan, some of the things that you will be doing in Canada, and how you plan to at least satisfy some of these three reasons that I stated. But in the letter of explanation, you will at least be explaining to the visa officer something that you think he needs clarity on. And for somebody who has refused the first time or even the second time, the visa officer will need to know how you are improving your application. So you can use the letter of explanation to at least attack these reasons that they have stated in the GCMS notes. So after requesting for your GCMS notes, reviewing it, if you make a decision to now reapply and you decide to at least improve your application to improve your chances of applying, these are a few ways that I feel you can counter your visa refusal reasons just to improve your chances of getting approval. The first reason that we will look at here is if IRCC decides to question your proof of funds of support. That's if they are questioning your proof of funds and decide to use that one to refuse your visa application. When you submit your study permit application, the IRCC expects you to at least submit enough proof of funds to show that you can at least take care of yourself whilst you are studying in Canada, to show that at least you have enough funds to pay for your tuition fee, at least during your first year of studying in Canada, without recourse to any public funds. And if you read the IRCC website, what they are saying is the minimum that you should have for proof of funds is your first year tuition fee and at least $10,000 if you are coming as a single person. If you are coming with other dependents, there are extra funds that you need to at least add on to. And you need to check all these things to make sure that at least you are meeting the minimum requirement. They will refuse your application right away without even going further to review the documents because you are not meeting the minimum requirement. So how do you address this? In my case and in also other cases that I've reviewed or even read on when it comes to most of these IRCC refusal letters, if you're able to get your GCMS notes and you see rightly where the visa officer pointed to refuse your study permit based on proof of funds, now you can go ahead to at least make the necessary changes. And if you think the visa officer made a mistake, you can now refer it back to him and say, maybe you made a mistake because I submitted enough proof of funds to be able to take care of myself. One thing that I always advise most people to do when they are submitting proof of funds is to add something I always call letter of explanation of proof of funds. Basically, what you are doing with that one is you are trying to explain to the visa officer how your proof of funds was accumulated and how you plan to take care of yourself whilst you are studying in Canada. Personally, the example that I always use is I write an explanation on how the money came together, how I got my proof of funds, and I put together a table. In that table, I show my expenses and my income so that he knows that I have enough money to cover myself whilst I'm studying in Canada. And if there was something else that he called out in the GCMS notes, I can go ahead to correct that one. So in my case, when they refer to it that they cannot read my bank statement, I knew the issue was the compression. So in subsequent application, what I decided to do was now reduce the amount of documents that I needed to upload when it comes to proof of funds. Instead of trying to attach every single document that I had, instead I attached the most important ones. That's the pay slips and the bank statements, and the other ones I just gave an explanation of them and possibly attach them in the client's file section just so they can refer to it. And I pointed out in the letter that these documents are attached in this particular folder. And also, whilst doing all this, you need to make sure that at least the second application that you are submitting, you have at least still met the minimum requirement of having enough proof of funds for your tuition fee and $10,000 extra to take care of yourself, so that they know that you meet the minimum requirement and they will not be able to use that one to refuse you again. Because beyond just having the money, they would like to know how you got the money, because they care about money laundering and they would like to know that the money that you said you have is genuine. Secondly, IRCC can question your intention to leave the country because you are coming on a temporary resident permit. And with any temporary resident permit, they require you to have reasons to leave the country when your permit expires. The study permit that you are applying is a temporary resident permit. And with any temporary resident permit, you are expected to leave the country when your permit expires. So the IRCC visa officer needs to know that you have reasons to leave the country when your visa actually expires. This does not mean that you cannot extend your study permit in case you have to, but at least they need to have reasons that you have a reason to go back to your home country. If they have any doubts when it comes to this one, they are going to use it to at least refuse your study permit. So in this case, if your ties to your home country is not strong enough, or you have not actually demonstrated to the visa officer that you have strong ties to your home country to at least leave Canada when your study permit expires, he will have doubts there and he will go ahead to use it to at least refuse your study permit. With this particular reason, the best way to always counter is to use at least your personal statement, which is either your statement of purpose, which is a study plan, or possibly use a letter of explanation to be able to counter this particular one. That's where we always say that the statement of purpose is very important. You need to demonstrate to the visa officer that you have strong ties to your home country. And there are different ways that you can prove ties to your home country. If you are telling the visa officer that there are things for you to do back home and that you have reason to go back home, or that you have people to go back to in your home country, you will know that at least you will not stay in Canada illegally if you are forced to, and that you will respect the reasons for your study permit, which is a temporary resident permit. And even if it expires, you will have a reason to go back home. I always advise people that if you are reapplying, use the letter of explanation to now address the real reason that the visa officer stated in the GCMS note for that refusal, because they are required to state the exact reason why they are basing their refusal on in the GCMS note. So you can quote him verbatim and now counter it and write directly to it that you said that I don't have reason to go back to my home country because I don't have strong ties, but possibly I have my parents back home, I have property back home, or I have a job waiting for me back home. You need to make sure that your study plan or even your letter of explanation is not vague. Be direct and make sure that you are attacking the reasons directly, so that he will know that at least these are the things that will bring you back to your home country. As much as they are encouraging people and there are routes for you to transition from temporary residency to permanent residency, they don't want you to at least not have a reason to go back home. I know you might be worried that why is it that they want people to come in and stay, but they are still saying they have reasons to go back home. They don't want you to be desperate to stay in the country. They want you to stay here legally. The third reason that I've seen this year that's coming out a lot is IRCC visa officer at least doubting the choice of program that as a student you've chosen to study. If the IRCC officer is using the choice of study program to possibly refuse your study permit, the one thing that might be coming out clearly is he doesn't possibly understand the logic for your choice of program that you are studying. A typical example would be somebody who has a bachelor's in nursing, has had about 4 years in nursing, and all of a sudden you are applying to a school to go and study hotel management. To the IRCC officer, there's no connection between these two. So he'll be worried that you are not actually coming in here to come and study. But maybe you might have a genuine reason why you want to transition from nursing to possibly hotel management. It is possible that your family might have started a hotel business and you want to now divert into hotel management so that you can go back home to go and manage the hotel. Or possibly you've done nursing, you are tired, you want to now transition into hotel management as a new passion because of some experiences that you've gotten in the past. To the visa officer, without an explanation, he will not understand why you are moving from nursing to hotel management. That is why you need to demonstrate to the visa officer genuinely why you are changing course from one particular area to the other. As much as they allow people to change, he needs to know that you are a genuine student, that you are a bona fide student and you are coming here to study. That is why you need to call out this one very well in your study plan. Explain to him your reason for your choice of study when you are applying for your study permit in the first place. Because one thing that you have to notice, the visa officers always check to make sure that at least your choice of program aligns with your course of study, your educational background, or even your work experience, to see that there is at least career progression on that front. So if you are one of the unlucky few who have gotten this possibly as one of the reasons for your refusal, what are some of the things that you should do to at least improve your chances in subsequent application? Like I said earlier, one thing that I always advise people to do is be clear about your study plan. Don't try to be vague. Don't try to filibuster and to try to at least do what we call pussyfooting around your plan of study. Be clear. Tell the visa officer exactly what your plans are, what your career plans are in your study plan. Be clear about that one. Tell them what you want to do with your life. And even if you did that and you were refused, in your letter of explanation for your subsequent application, make sure that you have explained that one verbatim, especially if your choice of program is odd. Looking at your educational background or even your work experience, make sure you explain to them, back it with enough information and evidence to show that at least you are prepared for that particular choice of program, even if your educational background does not demonstrate that you are ready for that one. Tell them the work you've done. If you are changing from one industry to the other, show them the kind of possibly books you've read, the kind of courses or seminars that you've attended to prepare you for that particular program. Because if the university has given you admission, then it's possible they believe that you'll be successful in that particular program. So the information that you show to the university for them to believe that you are ready for that particular course, do same when it comes to the application, to let the visa officer know that at least you've done your due diligence and that you are fully ready for the program and you'll be successful. And trust me, they will not use that one to refuse your second application. The fourth reason that I'm seeing this year that IRCC is using to refuse a lot of people is when IRCC questions you as an applicant, your acceptance letter when it comes to the school that you have decided to go and study at. I have said this and I'll always stress it. If you make a decision to come and study in Canada and your plan is to use it to at least transition from studying to possible permanent residency or even get work permits after your studies, make sure the school that you are going to is a designated learning institution, because only designated learning institutions will allow you to be able to at least qualify for postgraduate work permits after you study in Canada. And if the visa officer is using this particular reason to refuse your study permit application, then it's possible that he doubts the genuineness of your acceptance letter. And looking at what happened to some of our colleagues recently, the Indians who were possibly deported, you know that they are now scrutinizing most of this letter of acceptance because they know people are faking most of these letters. So make sure that the letter that you are using to apply for your study permit is coming from a genuine designated learning institution from Canada. Even if an agent is the one processing your application, make sure as the applicant you've done your due diligence, because this is a huge investment. You are spending a lot of money to move from your home country to Canada. So make sure you've put enough time and resources to know that the school that you are going to at least qualifies to even issue that particular letter in the first place. And also make sure you've met all the program requirements to be able to accept it to that particular school, because they check for all those things to make sure that you meet all those requirements. And if you don't meet that one, they will go ahead to use this reason to refuse your study permit application. So if you got this reason as one of the reasons for your refusal, after at least requesting for your GCMS notes, what I always advise is to make sure that you review all the documents that you submitted. Make sure that at least the documents are clear and eligible. And because if that document cannot be read, then they will doubt the genuineness of that document. Sometimes in our bid to compress documents, we overcompress it and it becomes a little not clear and not readable. So make sure the document that you are submitting is clear and is also readable. Secondly, make sure that the school that you got the letter from is a designated learning institution, especially if you didn't apply for yourself and it was done by an agent. Go ahead to the website and check to make sure that that school actually is on the list and qualifies to at least issue that particular letter for you to use for your study permit application. The fifth reason that I've also seen coming up this year is IRCC officers questioning travel documents or even identity documents of applicants. Sometimes if you don't have any travel history or even your identity document is not clear, some of the officers will use this as a reason to refuse your study permit application, because for them to be able to at least admit you into Canada, they need to be able to verify that you are at least admissible into their country. And the only way they can do this is to use the document that you submitted to check whether you have any criminal or medical challenges that will stop you from coming into their country. So if your travel documents or even your identity documents are not clear and they cannot verify information about you, then trust me, they will use this to refuse your study permit application. That is why you realize when you submit your study permit application, they have a separate folder for you to upload any identity document or any travel document, be it your national ID or even your passport in there, so that they will be able to use it to at least get information about you. When you are doing all these things, make sure that that document is clear and that it is readable for anybody looking at it to be able to read it. Else, if they feel there is any doubt about that document, it looks like it was forged, you are going to get your application refused because they are doubting that particular document. So in this case, if the visa officer decides to refuse you based on any of these reasons because of your identity document or your travel document, make sure you review it and check which particular area he is having challenges with, so that you'll be able to address it accordingly. Because without knowing that one, you wouldn't know which parts he's having issue with. Because sometimes if they feel that there's a gap in your travel history that they cannot explain, or there are blanks in your passport that they cannot explain, they will go ahead to refuse you based on your travel history. But at least they will mention it clearly in your GCMS notes why and what they are using to refuse you on, and that will help you to get clarity on which area you need to tackle. So now if you've gotten the GCMS notes and you've seen which area that at least he has a problem with, when you choose to reapply, you can make the necessary changes to make sure that you've addressed that one accordingly. If the issue was they could not read your identity document or your travel document, you can now make sure that in your subsequent application, the document is readable and is clear and is in colored, so that they will be able to get the information they need out of that particular document. And sometimes you can back it with other documents or information that you think will be relevant to support or answer the questions that they had in that GCMS notes. These are some 5 reasons that I've seen coming up this year with most people's study permit refusals that I think I should share with you, so that you can also apply them to yours, so that you don't get refused. And even if you have been refused already, you can make the necessary changes to make sure that in your reapplication you can improve the chances of you being approved. In all this, one thing that I want to stress is that if you are not clear on why your visa application was refused, and you don't want to put in the work to at least do the research to understand it, always make sure to contact an immigration lawyer or an immigration consultant who will now be able to offer you the professional help that you need to be able to understand the reasons and also help you provide the necessary documents to support your reapplication. As much as you decide to do that, to make sure you are going with the right ones, because there are a lot of fake ones out there. Some of us have had bad experiences with ones that are very popular online, but you work with them and you realize that it's all talk and no work. And if you got value out of this video, kindly hit the subscribe button and join this family as we learn together. And don't forget to hit the like button so that YouTube will see value in this video and show it to other people who might find value in it. And do well to share with your family and friends who might be possibly applying to come to Canada, so that they can make the necessary changes to improve the chances of them being approved. And if you need help requesting for GCMS notes, feel free to contact me. Check the description column. You'll get access to my Calendly. You can hit on it and get in touch with me, and I can help you apply for one, so that you see the real reasons why your study permit was refused, so that you can make the necessary changes and improve the chances of you being approved on the second time. And also, if you like to get in touch with me to have more of a personalized conversation, feel free to check the description column for my Calendly, where you can book some time and we can have a chit chat and discuss anything that's on your mind. Until the next time, cheers.